Now that we have the cam created, the next step is to put all the parts into an assembly. I've created an assembly here, and the first part I'm going to bring in is a base plate that I've created. Just a simple base plate. It's I believe 4 inches by 4 inches, a 1/4 inch circle in the center of it to attach the cam to, and I have a little slot here which I'm going to use to align my follower. One of the things I'm going to do for making the videos better is I'm going to go under View, Lights and Camera, Properties, and select Ambient, and I'm going to punch the ambient light up quite a bit, make it more like a cartoon than anything else, I guess, but I think it's easier to view. I'm going to insert the next, and by the way, since I've dropped this plate here and just selected the check mark, it's my fixed component, so this part cannot move. If I try to drag it, I get the comment that the selected component is fixed. It cannot be moved, which is what you need for any assembly that you're going to have motion associated with. So I'm going to go to insert another component. In this case, I'll bring my follower in, just drag it in and drop it. And the two mates I'm going to utilize are connect this surface and this surface and allow them to be coincident. And I'm going to select this surface here and this surface, and again allow them to be coincident. Now with those two done, I'm going to X out of that. I now have, if I click anywhere on this part, I can drag this part up and down. So I have the follower has a single degree of freedom, which I will then mate with the cam to allow for the follower motion. So what I'm going to do next is insert my cam. I call it assignment 1 example, and we'll just drop it out here, and we need to go ahead and do our mate. So I'm going to do a single mate from, now I want to make sure that I do this correctly. Now if you remember that I want the cam to rotate clockwise in this direction, so this should be my outer face, which means I'm going to select this face and this face and allow them to be mated together. Now of course, if you had selected those wrong, you always have the option of flipping your part around, but I obviously want to keep it in that direction, so I'll select OK. By the way, it's coincident. And I will select the center of that cylinder and the cylinder in the plate and accept them to be coincident, or concentric rather. Alright, so this should now, if I X out of that, come in here, I should be able to drag on my cam and allow it to rotate. Alright, so the next thing I need to do is to create a mate between the follower and the cam itself. I'm a little bit off here, as I recognize I had forgotten that I had the hub here when I made the part, but that's okay. Now obviously we're passing right through, so we could go ahead and create the cam mate, and I'm going to do this on purpose even though I'm suspecting that these edges are going to give me a problem. So I'm going to go ahead, select mate, I'm going to close down the standard mates, open up the mechanical mates, select cam, and now I'm just going to go around the cam itself, selecting all its outside surfaces. Alright, so that selects the cam, or the cam profile, and now I need to select the cam follower. Again, I'll select this edge of the cam follower, and as I had shown in class, the fact that they have not moved together here is a hint to you that there's going to be a problem when I tell it to do OK. So this is the problem that I was expecting, that the selected faces do not form a closed and continuous cam extruded from a single profile. So we'll select OK, and now to correct this we'll X out of the mate, and we're going to go and open up the cam part, the assignment 1 example, which is the cam itself, and we need to go in here and fillet each one of these lines to make the surfaces, this surface and this surface basically are not exactly tangent to each other. So what we're going to do is select the fillet tool, and I'm just going to select each one of these lines. Now the idea would be, of course, to keep these fillets as small as possible. So I selected all of them, and I'll just stick with the radius of 0.1. Of course, we could try to make them larger, and at some point, right about there, it's going to fail on me. All right, when the line turns blue, it's basically telling you that there's no solution there. So I'm going to go back to 0.1, where they're all nice and yellow, and I'll say OK. So now that I have fillets that provides a continuous profile, I will go back to the assembly, accept the update, we'll say yes, and now we'll go ahead and put that cam mate in. So again, shut down the standard mates, open up the mechanical mates, go for the cam. Now you got to be careful, because now you have a bunch of little surfaces here that we need to grab. So I'm going to grab that one and this one, and I'm going to work my way counterclockwise, making sure I get all of these little pieces. That one and that one. And let's get underneath here. This surface and this surface. This one's a slightly larger. I get to grab those. I think that's the last one. Alrighty. And now we'll do the cam follower. So there were 16 faces we needed to grab. Alright, with those faces selected, we now have to go and select our cam follower. So let me just zoom out a little bit, and we'll grab this bottom face of the cam follower. Notice I'm not using a wheel, I'm just using a bar that has a diameter of 0.24. So I'll select the face. I'm not in the selected. Alright, so now we go ahead. Our follower has moved into position, and we'll say OK. We're getting this warning now that one of the cam entities has a radius less than that of the follower. So the radius of the follower here is 0.12 inches, so there's some radius on the cam that's less than that. So let's accept OK, and we'll close down the mate. Let's see what happens as we try to adjust the cam. So that's what happens. Our follower falls to the inside of the cam. All right, well, we could either throw this away and start all over again, but there are some tricks that we can try. So first things first, let's go ahead and suppress the cam mate. Now that we have that, we can move the follower back out from inside the cam. And one of the best things to do is try to rotate the cam to another location. Here we're going to be in a hollow, and let's see if we can redo the mate and see what happens. So what we're going to do is edit the mate here. So we have the face, and I'm going to, I don't even think it's necessary, but I'm going to clear that selection, come back, and select it one more time. Now we're going to say OK. Again, we get that warning, and we'll dismiss this window, come back to our cam mate, and unsuppress it. And in this case, the solution has it with the follower being on the outside of the cam, which is exactly what we want. So let's view it from the front here, and let's see what happens when we drag the cam all the way around. All right. This seems to be exactly what it is that we're looking for. All right, so that'll finish this portion of the tutorial. In the next video, we'll go ahead and put the motor on and do the motion study.